Hello everybody and welcome back to another Pokemon Emerald video. Since I have been using some pretty powerful Pokemons lately, today I will restore the balance by using a Machop, a first stage Pokemon from the Generation 1. While I have used it sometimes, I have never had the pleasure to use a Machamp because I had nobody to trade with when I was a kid. Anyway, let me get over the rules real fast. I can only use my starter in combat. I cannot use items from my bag in battle. I can't raise my evasion in any way, and I can't use cheats or glitches. To be honest, Machop is not that bad of a Pokemon. It still has good attack, at least for my standards, and the move pool is quite nice. Today I will also do my best to use Guts to its maximum effect. For once, the start of the game is actually very easy, since there are quite a few dark types that are weak to our stab fighting moves, and so they go down in a single hit. The match against our rival, on the other hand, was a bit tougher, because Mudkip is not very heavy, so low kick did not do all that much to him. I hope Machop will do very well throughout the game, especially because very early he gets Bulk Up as soon as we defeat the second gym. With that buffing move, we should not have any trouble dealing enough damage to one-shot most of the Pokémons in the game. But first, let's take on the first gym leader, Roxanne. Sure, her Pokémons have good physical defense, but considering that I am using a super effective move with a good attack stat that is stab, and I am a bit overleveled, there is very little they can do to me, especially because I resist their rock moves. Nosepass lasts a bit longer, but eventually he falls too. Once we have acquired the first badge, we can travel a bit around town to do the side quest with Pico and the Sylph Spa, and then just before leaving we have to take on the optional fight against our rival. Here I underestimated her Torkoal. It has a lot of defense, and since Karate Chop is not super effective, it manages to leave quite a few hits. I was a bit worried of an attack since it set up a lot of courses, but I defeated her before she could move. Next, I decided to skip Brawly for the moment, because I am not very confident I can take him on with only physical moves. Instead, I went to Slateport and defeated the two Team Aqua Grunts harassing the captain. One Pokemon that will be a bit of a problem throughout the run is Zubat, since it is 4 times resistant to fighting, but thankfully we have Rock Tomb from Roxanne, so that was easy for now. After taking care of those guys, I leveled up a bit more around the town and then went back to face Brawly, mostly because I wanted to get Bulk Up as soon as possible. For this one, I got myself poisoned so that Guts would activate. While it gives me a good attack boost, it also takes away a bunch of HP every turn. Meditite was able to survive and then increase the team's defense with Reflect. Unfortunately, since I do not have a Brick Break yet, he was able to stall me for a bit, while in the meantime Poison was lowering my HP every turn. At least Makuhita is a one-shot, so that was not a reset. With this new tool in hand, I went back to the Slateport area and faced the optional fight against May. Of course, since we are talking about me, I forgot to teach it at least for this fight. Fortunately, this one is not too hard. Marshtomp is a bit annoying with Machop, but he goes down quite fast. and the rest of the team, since it is very weak, is not able to stop me. Moving on, we can grind a bit against the trainers around Mobile, and before you know it, it's time for the Watson fight. In between those two major events, I was able to remember about Bullcap and teach it to our guy. By using this move a couple of times at the start of the combat, I can increase my attack by a lot and then hopefully one-shot everything he throws at me. I got a bit unlucky and his Voltorb was able to paralyze me with the Spark. At least I had the Cherry Berry to heal it, and even though the gym battle was quite close with Manectric bringing me down to less than a quarter, it was still a one attempt win. Not sure if you can hear it, but my neighbor is mowing the lawn, so there might be a bit of a background noise. OBS is saying it's not picking it up, but who knows. Anyway, the next major fight is going to be against the Team Magma leader. He is trying to wake up the legendary Pokémon underneath the volcano, but we can't let him do that, so we challenge him to a fight. This one was unexpectedly quite hard, but not for the reasons you think about. Zubat and Mightyena go down very fast, as you can see. But then I tried to set up against Camerapt, who gets a Magnitude 8 crit, followed up immediately after by a Magnitude 9. He got so lucky. But I guess I can't complain since I survived the ordeal. The next gym leader we have to face is Flannery, the Fire-type trainer. Her team is not too scary, mostly because I can take the time to set up against her lead Namel. Sure, it has Overhit, which deals quite a bit of damage, but since it loses special attack every time he fires one off, I should be safe. I did not go all the way to +6 with Bullcap, mostly because I did not think it was needed. And while most of her team goes down very easily, the Torkoal is a bit different. He actually manages to survive a hit, but fortunately does not get a paralysis, so I can finish it off a few turns later after a bunch of potions. Now that we are done with half of the gyms in the game, it's time to backtrack quite a bit to one of the first towns. Here we can find our dad, who is also the normal type gym leader. You might think that this one is going to be easy since I have the type advantage, and while it was not hard, it was not exactly a walk in the park. His Pokémons are quite fast and can do decent damage to me even after the increased defense from Bullcap. But what I had to be most careful about was slacking with the counter strategy. Since I expected that to happen, I played around it, and with no hardship I was able to gain the 5th badge. Now that we can use Surf outside of combat, we can also explore a whole bunch more of the region. In the Weather Institute we find the Team Admiral Shelly, who uses a couple of Pokémons, but since they are all Dark type, a couple of punches are about enough to take them down. By rescuing the scientists, we are given Cast Form, which I always use in Victory Road as a Flash TM slave. Anyway, next up is the match against May. And once again, since her lead Pokémon is not very threatening, I can set up a few Bullcaps against it, and then start to sweep the rest of her team. This time around, she does not have anything that resists fighting, so it's a simple sweep. Once we are done with her, it's time to take on the next gym. This one might be hard, because Winona has the type advantage. As always, I took out the first Swablu since it knows Perish Song, but then she sent out Skarmory. I had to panic boost in the middle of the fight, otherwise she would have healed it and it would have been a mess. Once Tropius comes out, I am a bit more safe and can use a few more bulk ups to raise my attack to a decent level. From here I can get back to sweeping her team, using secret power since Rock Tomb only has 80 accuracy and I don't want to rely on that. After earning this badge too, we can get back to our journey and reach the next town over, where we have another fight with May. Maybe because this is the last fight against her, she now has a flying type to make things harder for us. Strangely enough though, it does not have any stab flying moves, so it's not like I am in a risk of dying anytime soon. I can even set up a few bulk ups against it, and once that is completed, I can sweep her team with ease. After taking care of her, we have to do the usual stuff in the Mount Pyre and then infiltrate the Team Magma base. Here we see Maxi waking up Groudon with the wrong orb, so the legendary leaves, and the evil guy attacks us. This particular fight against him was kinda hard. Even my Tiena, who is weak to fighting, is able to leave a hit, so I had to bulk up. But that's the least of my problems, because he now has a Crobat who has 2 flying moves, so yeah, not great for me. Rock Tomb is very unreliable, so it missed and put me in a worse situation. Fortunately, I was able to defeat the Crobat, and then Camerupt took me down to just 11 HP with an Earthquake. That was very close. Next we have the Team Aqua base, but here we can only find another one of their admirals, which is much less threatening than Maxi. I do get Swaggered, which is not great since my defense is kinda bad, but at least with the bulk up I can raise that too, and I should not deal too much damage to myself in confusion. Once this guy is defeated too, I have a lot of grinding to do because the next gym battle is going to be very hard. Tate and Liza not only specialize in psychic types who are super effective against me, but are also a double fight, so even if I can set up, I cannot guarantee to one-shot all of their Pokémons before they move. Psychic in particular does way too much damage, more than half of my HP, so this was very hard. To make things worse, my attack stat, even with Guts, is not that great, so to take down the Lunatone and Solrock in one hit, I had to use one bulk up, making me lose another turn. Fortunately, after a lot of trial and error, I sort of understood their strategies and found a pattern to guarantee the least amount of attacks from them. With that, I was just barely able to take down all of their Pokémons before they could fire off a single Psychic. Now that we have beaten the hardest fight in the game, it's time to relax a bit with the double fight with Steven. Even though in this one there are 2 Mighty-Hyenas with Intimidate and 2 flying types, it should not be that bad. First of all, we have Metang to increase our defenses with Reflect and Light Screen. And also, since the fight is quite slow, I have more than enough time to set up a good number of bulk ups to both negate their intimidates and increase my defense if Crobat or Golbat decide to use a flying move on me. Ultimately, this one took a bit of time, but I was never close to losing. Also, you might have noticed that the layout broke. That's my fault, I forgot to restart game hook, so it will be like that for a little while. It might have been a mistake to keep Karate Chop throughout most of the run, because Machop did try to learn more powerful fighting moves, but they were all not very accurate, so I refused to teach them. Anyway, to finish off the evil team's saga, Archie reaches us in Seafloor Cave to fight us. While his team is very similar to Maxi, the fight went in a bit of a different way. Crobat confused me, and because of that I lost a couple of turns, so he was able to attack me quite a bit. Because of it I lost most of my HP, but eventually I was able to snap out of it, set up a couple of bullcaps, and finally take down this damn Crobat. Once the Team Aqua leader is defeated too, we have the usual stuff with the legendaries causing a mess, and we have to go wake up Rayquaza to put a stop to their fighting. While I do that, could you do me a favor and subscribe, like the video, share it, and all of that YouTube stuff. It helps out a lot with the algorithm and with my motivation too. Once I am done with the shameless plug, we can start the fight against the last gym leader. Juan is not too threatening. While I cannot set up against his lead because of confusion, Whiscash comes out second, and this one is a great target for Bullcap. He cannot deal that much damage to me, and even if he sets up amnesias, I do not care about those. Thanks to all of my setup, Kingdra is defeated in one shot, so we do not have to worry about double team today. The rest of the team quickly follows, and just like that we have obtained the last badge too. Now that we can use all of the TMs, we can enter Victory Road, and here of course we are reached by Wally, who wants one last challenge. His team is a bit scary, mostly because he starts off with Altaria, who has a flying move and can boost his attack. Fortunately, Bullcap increases my defense, so I do not take that much damage from his stab moves. Once I am set up, I can sweep his team, since other than the Cloud Dragon, there is nothing else threatening on his team. Once we are done with Wally, we can complete the rest of the Victory Road and enter the League. As you might have noticed, I am currently poisoned, and that's because I want to use the Guts ability. Thanks to it, I do not need to set up against Sidney, even if he lowers my attack with Intimidate. This means that I can immediately go for the attacks and not give him enough time to use any BS strategy against me. Ultimately, he was very easy, and I am glad I did not lose against him. The second member is Pheobe, and she might be a bit more problematic, since two of my attacking moves are useless against her. Fortunately, her lead Dusclops always protects on turn 1, which gives me enough time to Bullcap, and between that attack boost and Guts, Earthquake is enough to one-shot her first Dusclops. With no course, the rest of her team cannot do much other than falling to one Earthquake. I was a bit worried that her second Dusclops would survive, since it is a few levels higher, but fortunately he was not able to take it, and with that, Pheobe is defeated too. Next is Glacia, and she is by far the easiest member. My fighting moves are super effective on all of her team, so even without Guts, I am sure I would have been able to easily take her down. Using my ability, I once again do not need to Bullcap. This time around it would have been fine to do so, since her lead always uses Hail on turn 1, which ultimately does even less damage than poison throughout the fight. Now that we are done with her too, it's time to take on Drake, and unfortunately here is where things got a bit more complicated. My attack stat, even with the guts, is not quite enough to defeat his dragon Pokémons, so I had to set up, but if I do so against a Shelgon, I will be slowed down. And between poison and their attacks, I cannot endure all of that damage. So instead, I decided to try it without being poisoned. Sure, I do not have guts, but I can take my time and set up a couple more pull caps, who should be more than enough to counterbalance. This also gives me a bunch of defense, but unfortunately every single one of his Pokémons have a special move to ignore that. In this attempt I got very lucky because most of his Pokémons decided to use setup moves instead of straight up attacking me. This allowed me to reach Salamence with most of my HP, and even ignoring the paralysis, I was able to defeat his team with way too little effort after what I went through. Lastly, we have the champion, and while I would have loved to say that we first attempted him, that's not quite the case. The second time around, I did not set up against Wailord, because my moves are not able to lower his HP enough, and also he has Blizzard, who hurts a lot. Instead, I took a page from the Juan fight, and set up against Whiscash. This one is a bit more dangerous since it knows Surf and is currently raining, so that would have done a bunch of damage. But fortunately he does not use it too many times, allowing me to reach +3. From here I am sure I can take on most of his Pokémons, and fortunately Tentacruel misses the Hydro Pump. That would have been very scary. The only thing I am worried about now is Gyarados, mostly because it has Intimidate, and so my damage is not going to be as high. Surprisingly, one return is enough to defeat both Gyarados and then Milotic. I was not expecting that, but I am pleasantly surprised. Ultimately, while it struggled in a couple of places, Machop was quite a good Pokémon, even though he may not look like it at first glance. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, share, and all of that YouTube stuff. If you have any feedback, video ideas, comments, or anything else, leave a comment down below. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Bye!